All right, welcome back to Fabrication 101. We're back out in the shop. It's a new week-ish, new day, back on the Bronco. We're trying to finish up a bunch of little things on the Bronco. Well, some of them aren't so little. Got to put the drive shaft in, not a terrible job. I did get it shortened and back from Arizona Drive Shaft Services down in Mesa. Let's see, got to fix the filler cap. I got a plan for that. That shouldn't take very long at all. Do the exhaust. The exhaust might take a little bit, or figure out a new plan for the exhaust because it won't go back where I had it. And I got to figure out where I want to bring it out. So we'll get to that. And then I'm thinking about cutting these mounts out because I don't need them. I don't really need to cut them out. But it would be nice to put a new piece of aluminum in here that closes this up completely, because the old piece of aluminum that goes in there has a big hole right here where the shock goes or went. So it'd be nice to get that all cut out. So it's gonna be a nice and warm one today, maybe a little humid in the afternoon, but it should be a good day to get some work done. So let's get after it. All right, here we go. I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but this is the third time I've had to have this drive shaft link changed, although the first time was when I switched my springs to spring over instead of spring under, or spring under, I don't know, one or the other. And now it just needs to be shortened. The first time it actually had to be retubed because you can't stretch a drive shaft, you can't lengthen it. It just had to be retubed. So this is considerably cheaper. I'm a big fan of Arizona Drive Shaft Services down in Mesa, Arizona, so if you're ever needing drive shaft work, those are the guys to go to, in my opinion, anyway. Loctiting these bolts in there, just because I'd rather have to fight to get them loose than have them come loose on me while I'm on a trail somewhere, or driving down the highway and have my drive shaft fall out. That would be pretty bad. So, unfortunately, it took me a little bit to figure out why I couldn't rotate my drive shaft. And if you can see the jack stands, you can actually see that the hubs of the axle are sitting on the jack stands, which is why I couldn't rotate it. Got that fixed. Was able to get the rest of the drive shaft bolts put in and tightened down nice and snug. So hopefully everything's good from now on. Once I got the drive shaft sorted out, I went ahead and tackled the little hole in my gas filler neck with a little bit of silicon bronze. It's brazed in there. It's almost like brazing. Much lighter, lower temperature than steel, since that piece is stainless steel. You can see the drive shaft is in, and it fits a lot better clearance-wise. I don't think I'm gonna have too many more issues with that. I also got this sort of sorted out. I put a little weld there. That's actually, I use silicon bronze. This piece is stainless steel. I don't have any stainless wire. So I used just a little bit of silicon bronze. It has a much lower melting point than stainless does. I think it does, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, this thing warped just a little tiny bit, so I straightened that back out. I hope this is going to fix my issue. One of the other things I noticed when I took this apart is this rubber gasket wasn't actually centered. It was slid down just a little bit, and so it was always leaving a little bit of a gap here at the top of the filler neck hole. So anyway, hopefully this fixed a little bit of my fuel leaking issue when this thing's leaned over on its side. I won't know until the next time I'm out on the trail. So we'll see how that goes. I've got other solutions in mind if that doesn't fix it. So hopefully that'll sort of take care of it. And I got a little bit of a start on my exhaust, or relocating the exhaust. You can see this is the tailpipe sticking in here. And I've already kind of cut it a little bit to try to figure out the start of my plan. Pretty straightforward. So this is the existing exhaust. You saw me kind of clean that up. And so I'm just gonna create a little bend over and out. That'll take care of that little bit there. I really am trying to avoid, it would be so much easier to draw the exhaust out here and just do a little side dump. However, this thing being a trail rig and oftentimes going quite slow instead of fast, I didn't want to have any reason for exhaust fumes to build up in here or around the cab area. And I just try to get the exhaust note a little further back, even though the exhaust is not the noisy part of this rig, it's the engine. So anyway, we're gonna do some probably pie cuts, because I don't think the one little bit of mandrel bend I have left is gonna work for that. It's too big. And pie cuts are a great way to do really tight radiuses in small areas. So it makes things a little bit more work, but it makes things fit a little bit nicer. So I think that's the plan. It's actually going to do a little bend there, and it'll drop the exhaust right back here pretty nicely, and everything should clear, I think. So we're going to go ahead and start making some a few more cuts, some pie cuts. I think we're going to go ahead and try to figure out that bend, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim off the rest of the tailpipe and make that fit the way I need to. All right, let's get started. All right, who's ready for some pie? Making some pie cuts here for my exhaust. Went with an 18-degree wedge because that makes for fewer weld seams in this piece. Doesn't give me as nice and clean a look. Again, like I think I say later in the video, that you can either do 18 degrees or 9 degrees. I think there's more in there, but those are the two common ones. The 18 degree takes up more space without as many weld seams, I guess. Doesn't look as nice, like I said, but it'll work well enough for my exhaust here. I did end up having to cut one piece and actually recut this piece because it ended up being too short. Where the angle was the same on both sides, it kind of gave me like a little 45-degree shoot off to one side, so that I could make my way around a corner and then finish the tubing on the way back. Once I got all the pieces cut, deburred, cleaned, go ahead and try to get some things tacked together. I don't know if you can see it in this, but for some reason on that little Milwaukee grinder there, it has a light on it. And every time I would do a tack weld with it sitting on the table, the light would light up. And so I kind of did some random tacking at one point to see if I could get it to come on, and it never did. But I'm not sure why that was happening. So you can see a little witness mark on there where I lined things up to try to make sure everything goes back where it was. This is exhaust, so I'm not being super critical with getting everything fit up nice. It's going to be okay. So I got the back half out now, where the tailpipe section is. Again, you can't see them, but I do have some marks on there to locate everything. Got a little bit of a flare on that first tack. My fan over there blowing the gas away, so probably should have unplugged that. All right, the exhaust, even though it looks like a stovepipe, I'm going to call good enough. We just got to put a mount on that end, which should be pretty straightforward. It's sitting right there, actually. So there's two ways to do, well, I guess there's probably a lot of ways to do pie cuts. The two most common are doing a 9-degree angle, or a 9-degree wedge, and an 18-degree. And it kind of just depends on how many pieces or how many seams you want to have in there. Obviously, if you do the 9 degrees, the idea is that it takes 9 cuts to make 10 cuts to make a 90-degree bend. Whereas the 18, it only takes half as many, 5 cuts. I'll be honest, I was a little lazy on this since it's exhaust, and I don't think it's going to be super critical that it bends nice. I was more worried about getting it into space, since my one mandrel bend, I don't think would have given me enough offset to make the two bends. It would have been close, maybe. I don't know. I'm gonna stick with this. I'm not gonna go back, obviously, and redo this. I will show you one little tip that I do when I do these things, or do this kind of pie cutting stuff, is I put a tab or just a piece of scrap metal on the end of the piece of tube, and what that allows me to do is put my digital angle finder on there, so that I know each cut, when I flip the tube over, I'm getting my angle back where I need it to be. And that makes it pretty easy. I also normally, I didn't do it on this, but normally I'll put a line down one side or across from each other 180 degrees out so that I'm trying to get perfect bends. Well, not necessary, but it works pretty good. But putting that angle finder on that tab makes a huge difference, whether you're using like a miter saw or a band saw like I used. And I have a miter saw that I was going to use for this, but I don't have a blade for cutting steel. The blade that's on it right now is for cutting aluminum, because that's what I did last time when I used it. I believe I was doing the intake tubing on the diesel motor here. So anyway, it's time to get this all welded up, get the mount put back on it, put it back in the Bronco, and then this exhaust will be done. So let's go build something. All right, welcome back. It's a new day in the shop. I got kind of sidetracked a little bit yesterday afternoon. I decided before I was going to weld the exhaust up, I needed to go get a new cheater lens or magnifying diopter lens for my welding helmet because I couldn't find mine. Anyway, one of the downfalls of where I live is there are no actual welding suppliers local. The nearest one's 45 minutes away. So I went to 4 different places. Yeah, 4 different places. Finally found a magnifying lens, or I found 2 actually, so I bought both of them. But one of the stops was Ace Hardware. Picked up a few things there. Thought maybe Harbor Freight might have some, which they didn't. But they did have is that little floor jack. Well, not so little. I didn't really need a new floor jack. But this thing, when I found it there, was like 35% off, 30% off already, off of its shelf price, which was already discounted. And then they also had another 40% off if you're one of their inside track members. So I picked up that floor jack for like $80. So that was kind of worth it. Good deal there. So I did get the magnifying lens, like I said, and I got this thing all welded up. It is not pretty. Probably should have shut the fan off. Probably should have cleaned the aluminizing off of this a little bit more. Some of this already was the existing exhaust, so it was pretty dirty on the inside. But I think it'll work well enough for this rock crawler. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw some paint on this, at least on the new metal parts, because I'm not super worried about it like rotting through. I just want to clean it up a little bit. We're going to put it back in, and then I think we're gonna go ahead and look at cutting these brackets out back here. So we'll not chatting too much more without rambling too much more. We're gonna go ahead and get to work and keep building something. So I'm not sure it's needed, but this is like high temperature engine enamel or exhaust paint. And I only had a little bit left in this can, so I ended up spraying just a little bit more than the new metal or the cut parts. Hopefully it looks a little bit nicer. All right, what am I doing? Forgot what I was doing. Oh yeah, I got the back of the Bronco all ready to get some parts cut off of it. Unfortunately my plasma cutter died not too long ago. I'm trying to get a new one. The one I want is out of stock right now, so I haven't ordered it yet. I'm gonna need a new one anyway to run the new plasma table. But, so I've got a few options for cutting those pieces out. Could be oxy-fuel torch, it could be hand grinder, a cutoff wheel, sawzall, those kind of things. If my plasma cutter was working, that'd be my option. Instead, I'm gonna use my sword. So this should work really well. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna chop these things off with the sword. All right, here we go. We're gonna cut off this one first. Ready? Let's see. Get back here a little bit more. Let's see, what's gonna be the best way to do this? Let's just do Yahtzee. Or no, that's Jenga. Now for that side. Jenga. All right, sword work all done. I've got a little bit of grinding work now to do, unfortunately, but it should go fairly quickly. I try to cut this stuff as close as I can without gouging the tube. And with the sword, it's a little tricky. You gotta be careful that you don't overcut when you do this stuff. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get this stuff knocked out and ground off just like that. And we're done. All right. See, those are all cleaned off and gone and ground off and smooth. And I've got a nice little, what do you call it, grinder tan, nice and dirty. Anyway, we got that done. Fortunately, for some reason, and I don't really know why, when I was making all of these little tabs to mount the body panels in, I have a couple of extras, and this one's actually been tacked in, so I'm not really sure where it came from or what it was for, but they've got a new home. They're going to go in here just like all the other ones, so that I can put some nutserts in and then mount the new piece of aluminum that's going to go in these two spots. So we're going to go ahead and get those mounted. Probably mount them, paint them, nutserts, and then make the aluminum panel. Or maybe I'll mount them, make the aluminum panel, nutsert, no, paint, panel, paint, nutsert, and then put it back in. I don't know, something in that order. Anyway, we'll get to it. All right, let's get these little pieces tacked in. You're gonna do a little bit of final cleanup where the welds are gonna go. Those little Milwaukee angle grinder, die grinder, whatever you want to call them, I think are worth their weight in gold. I actually want to get another one so I don't have to keep changing the ends around. But got those two little tabs put in. Now it's time to make a couple of new panels for the back. And I'm kind of adopting using the circular saw for cutting this stuff. It works really well, cuts really straight. Biggest problem I can find on aluminum is it does the foot on the saw does kind of scratch the aluminum. But that's really not that big of a deal. So got the plate in, got it lined up pretty good. Just pretty happy with it, and drilled the new hole and call it good. All right, friends, things are going pretty good here. You can see I've got that panel, well, mostly done. Mounted, holes drilled. Just got to put the nutserts in. Same thing with this panel. But I think before I do the nutserts, I'm going to go ahead and pull them out, clean everything up, and paint at least the rough areas. Then somewhere I've got to find some more of these screws, because I don't know if I have any more. I'm going to find them, because I'm adding one. So we'll have to figure it out. And I know I've got a couple of nutserts from the other panels that need to be replaced, so I'm going to go ahead and do those too while we're at it. But for now, and I think we're gonna go ahead and pull these off, throw some paint on it, and that'll be the end of today. And we'll be back tomorrow with some more. All right, there we go. I got the two panels done. You saw me get them cut out, drilled, mounted, and went ahead and opened up the holes in those two panels as well. I gotta go get a couple more screws because I ruined one and I added one on these panels. But I got all the nutserts are fixed. Just gotta get a few more screws to put in there, and this thing will be done and ready to rock and roll on a trail again, hopefully soon. But anyway, I can hear some thunder going on outside, so it should be a pretty exciting afternoon. That's going to wrap up this video for Fabrication 101. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Share it with somebody who might find it interesting. And we will see you guys in the next episode of Fabrication 101. In the meantime, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, and go build something.